And so in Siberia, this is passed from person to person, not rather than being recycled. And they get 5 or 6 people high on the same mushroom.
This is very important. This may be the secret of Amanita, because it seems to me, from what you were saying, that it's not simply that it goes through. There's a filtering, and there's a detoxification process. So the first collection after you eat it has probably got a lot of things cleaned out of it that might make for an uncomfortable trip. It may also, I mean, this is pure speculation, but it's possible that some of the downstream effects of taking these GABA agonists, which is what the Amanita, it might induce the production of endogenous tryptamines, DMT plus beta-carbolines, so that the person who ate that urine or drank that urine after this process might be getting a lot of things that is not in the mushrooms, but it's actually secondary metabolites that are produced by the eating of the mushrooms. So you get the mushrooms, you eat the mushrooms, and you get all these feedback loops happening, and you get possibly things excreted in the urine, possibly these tryptamines and beta-carbolines. I don't know that this is possible, but it's completely reasonable to speculate.
There is actually a Tibetan text which is a retelling of the Hindu myth of how Amrita was first made by churning the ocean. But in the Tibetan version, the bodhisattva who's supposed to be looking after the Amrita doesn't look after it very well, and this demon comes along and steals it. And he doesn't just drink it all, he drinks it and replaces it with his own urine. And then the Buddhas decide that the bodhisattva, Vajrapani, who was looking after it, should drink the urine. And he does. And he becomes dark blue, surrounded by flames and ornamented with snakes.
Stepping out. That's what the mystical experience is. It's one of ecstasy. And whilst it's difficult to look at specifically, at least in the Gnostic and the pagan initiations, and go, oh, this was what was used, and we don't have that. We can guess, we don't. What we do know is that an initiation, well, first of all, the word, certainly in the Greek word that gets used, doesn't mean, like our word, the start of something. It comes from telos, and it means kind of a glimpse of the end of something. So what's happening to you in an initiation is that you're getting an experience of where you're going. So and then you come back and then you make the journey back to that place and you're finding it in yourself. Now, one of the things that psychedelics does is it gives you a glimpse of something which has been kind of given to you from the outside in. You've needed to ingest this thing and something's happened to your consciousness. It's a very powerful way of doing that. And so the idea that you could have an initiation, a glimpse of the end, through something which is taken into you, through psychedelics, also through the influence of a teacher or a ritual, or maybe all of it, and then you're on the journey to find that in yourself, because it's already in you. That's what I think is going on, one way or another.
It may be the case that there were mystery traditions that made use of psychedelics, and so, we've lost track in our official history of what that use was and what went on. We don't know what they were doing in Egypt. We don't know what the Jews were doing in Sinai. So there's a lot of kind of alternative archaeology and anthropology, which sort of tries to work through these possibilities. And it may be that early Christianity had aspects of a mushroom cult, that may have appeared in these artworks, which definitely are, some of them really are very suggestive of mushrooms. However, I think that sometimes there's a tendency in the psychedelic community to almost become like, entheogenic fundamentalists and think that all visionary experience, was mediated by the psychedelic plants, and that the origin of all religions was based in, the experience of using these substances. And it may be the case, we just don't know. And it may not be the case, because people have visionary experiences, without psychedelics. I mean, diet, fasting, drumming, there are all sorts of, there's a whole range, yoga, there's a whole range of types of experiences that produce, mystical visions, sense of unity with the cosmos. So I'm a little resistant to a strain that I often encounter in the psychedelic underground of kind of fundamentalism around these experiences. That they were the origin of all genuine religion or whatever. So, but they probably played more of a part than the official story gives credit to.
When religions come in contact with a real mystery, with a really numinous thing, they don't like that, because numinous things are inherently dangerous and threatening, and a lot of religion has to do with controlling people. And there needs to be a distance between God or the numinous archetype, whatever that is, and the people. And that's usually the priestly hierarchy and the infrastructure around that, and the sort of infrastructure that filters the message.
One of the things that stood out in my research in Christianity was the use of the Eucharist. That is, going back to the Last Supper and Jesus' purported words at the time when he dipped the bread and said, "This is my body, eat it and have life in you. Unless you eat this, you will not have life in you. This is my blood," and he handed the cup of supposed wine and said, this is my blood, and unless you drink this blood, you will not have life in you. Unless you eat my body and drink my blood, you will not have life in you. And this is stressed over and over, especially in John, the book of John, in the New Testament. So what could this mean? What is this all mere symbol? Why degrade, ostensibly degrade a high spiritual experience by likening it to eating the flesh and blood of another human being? That seems counterintuitive and completely beside the point, unless these were symbols for something else, for another substance.
The Christian Eucharist